So when I take a look at the answer choices, I notice that one of them has a period, and the other ones, maybe another one answer choice C has a comma, another one answer choice B has no punctuation, right? So when I notice these sort of differences, I know that I'm being tested on punctuation rules. But here's the thing. Whenever I'm tested on punctuation rules, I always know that I'm going to be tested on sentence structure as well, right? So you want to make sure on the SAT that every sentence that you read, that you encounter, it has to be grammatically correct. What does it mean to be grammatically correct? Grammatical correctness means that the sentence must have the correct punctuations and it must follow or obey the rules of grammar, right? And so when a sentence doesn't, right, it violates the rules of grammar, it creates a sentence structure error. Now on the SAT, there are two common types of sentence structure errors. One of them is a sentence fragment, which is just an incomplete sentence. Remember that a complete sentence must have a subject, a verb, and a complete thought, but a fragment is going to be missing one of those three things, right? So that creates one type of sentence structure error. The second is going to be a run-on sentence. A run-on sentence is when you have two independent clauses that are not properly punctuated. So it's missing the correct punctuation. Now there's there's 4 different ways to fix run-on sentences that you'll see on the SAT. And the SAT does test you on all 4 of these ways, so they're good to know. So like I said, because we have a run-on sentence here. So the run-on sentence is when we have 2 independent clauses or ICs that are not properly punctuated. So an independent clause is just a complete sentence, right? So if my first independent clause, IC1, was, let's just say, simple one, Jack is a boy, right? Independent clause 2, IC2, is, let's say, Jill is a girl. Okay, so we have 2 independent clauses. Now, if there's no punctuation between them, like you see here, this creates a run-on sentence. Again, a run-on sentence is when you have 2 independent clauses that are not properly punctuated. If you just have a comma between these 2 independent clauses, this also creates a run-on sentence, right? And this is not good, it's bad, right? Also, if you just have like other like filler words, right? If you have words like and or however or on the other hand or yesterday morning, right? Any kind of words, right, in between these two independent clauses, but you still don't have the correct punctuation, then this also leads to a run-on, right? So like I said, there's several ways that you can fix run-on sentences. Now, the easiest way that you guys know, I know too, is by using a period, right? Like you see in answer choice A. So a period can be used to separate 2 independent clauses, right? We also have a semicolon. So a semicolon can also be used to separate 2 independent clauses. So when we have an IC, a semicolon IC, this creates a grammatical sentence. I'll just put a happy face, right? No longer a run-on, no longer a sad face, but a happy face. So these are 2 ways. These are the easiest punctuation marks to recognize, right? We can also use a comma, but we have to use a comma with what's called a fanboys word, right? So if we have IC1, we can use a comma plus a fanboys word. And then we have the second independent clause, IC2. Okay, so now the independent clauses here are now separated by or connected by this comma and the fanboys word. So the fanboys, you guys, is just basically, it's an acronym. So each of the letters in the word fanboys represents a coordinating conjunction, right? So there's 7 coordinating conjunctions in the English language. And a coordinating conjunction can be paired with a comma to separate 2 independent clauses. So I think you guys know this. F stands for what? F stands for, A stands for and, N stands for nor, B stands for but, O stands for or, Y stands for yet, and S stands for so. Right, so combining a comma plus a fanboys word is a grammatically correct way, right, to connect or separate 2 independent clauses. Okay, and so those are the 3 most common ways. The 4th way is, and this isn't always the case, but this can. It doesn't mean that it always does, but it can be used to separate 2 independent clauses, and I've seen the SAT do this, so it's kind of good to know. So also a colon. So a colon, you guys, is when you have 2 periods, right? A colon like this versus a semicolon. Semicolon is when you have a period and a comma below it, right? That's a semicolon. So a colon is a colon can be used to separate two independent clauses. Now, that doesn't mean that it always separates two independent clauses, right? But it can, okay? So the thing that you have to know about a colon, right, is that the information before the colon must be an independent clause. So you always have to have a complete sentence before the colon. The information after the colon doesn't have to be a complete sentence, but it can be, right? The job of the information after the colon is only to explain or refer back to what was previously mentioned by clarifying it. Okay, but how that's written can be one word, it can be a phrase, or it can be a complete sentence, right? So for example, if I said, I have one goal in life, and then I have a colon, then I say, to win the Olympics, right? Well, that information after the colon refers back to what was previously mentioned. It clarifies what my one goal is, right? But that one goal can be a word, or it can be a phrase, or it can be a complete sentence. So if I said, I have one goal that I want to achieve, and I say gold medal, I don't know. That's going to be like, I guess, 2 words. But again, it clarifies what came before. That's also okay. I could also say, I have one goal that I want to achieve. And then I have a colon. Then I say, I want to win Olympic gold, right, in 2032. That's also grammatically correct. And it's also the colon is used correctly. In that case, it's used to separate two complete sentences. But just notice how the information after the colon, right, I want to win an Olympic gold medal, that still clarifies what was previously talked about, right? Information before the colon, right? I have one goal that I want to achieve, okay? So that's what you want to know about. That's another way that I've seen the SAT kind of quote unquote fix a run-on sentence. Just know that it can be the case, but also know that it's not always the case that a colon separates two independent clauses, just that it can. Okay. Now, the fourth way to separate two independent clauses is actually going to be to turn one of the independent clauses into a not independent clause, right? So turn one of the independent clauses into like a dependent clause or like a phrase, right? So for example, if I had the sentence like, Jack is smart, Jack gets good grades, right? If these are my two sentences, Jack is smart, Jack gets all A's. This would be a run-on, right? Because I have two complete sentences that are not properly punctuated, right? Well, one of the ways to fix that is to turn one of these independent clauses into a not independent clause, right? So if I said this, if I said Jack is smart and gets good grades, right? That would be okay. Because now I've turned this second independent clause into a not independent clause, right? Into just like a phrase, right? But this still creates a grammatical sentence, right? So the sentence structure is going to be correct here, okay? So that's what you have to know about run-on sentences on this test. Now, tying this back to this question, right? So I'm going to start with the second sentence here because I'm checking for sentence structure, right? Now, the sentence reads, the chemical TMAO, right, counters this effect, ensuring that proteins retain their original configurations. TMAO is found in high concentrations in the cells of the deepest dwelling fish. Okay, so this one's pretty straightforward. A is going to be the correct answer, but let me kind of explain what I'm looking for here, right? So answer choice A here has a period, so I know that a period's job is to separate two independent clauses, right? This is going to be helpful for you guys to know. So if I know that, it's not just enough to know, you can actually go and check it now, right? So my job is now to check the information before the period to make sure that I have a complete sentence, right? And also, if I do, then check the information after the period to make sure that I have a complete sentence, right? So again, what makes up a complete sentence? I have a subject. What's the subject of the sentence? We can do that here. It's going to be the chemical, and then from there, TMAO. That's going to be the subject of the sentence, right? Do I have a verb, right? Well, the verb is going to be counters, right? This counters, and then now I have a subject and a verb. Now I have to have a complete thought. So now I'm going to read, right, to figure out where this thought kind of ends, where it's complete. right? So it says the TMAO counters this effect, right? So the independent clause ends right here, but it doesn't mean the sentence structure ends right here, right? Because now I have a comma, and then now I have an ing phrase, right? So you know that this sentence structure, IC, comma, ing phrase, is a common type of sentence structure that you'll encounter on the SAT. It is grammatically correct, right? Where the ing, where this phrase just kind of tells you about something that occurs simultaneously, right? At the same time as the independent clause, or just immediately after, right? So if I'm saying TMAO counters this effect, right? And then this next part, this ing phrase, kind of tells you in what way it counters the effect, right? But this event ensures that proteins retain their original configuration, right? That's, again, happening. That event, right, is explaining, right, how TMAO counters that effect, right? So in this case, these two events are occurring at the same time, because that ing phrase is just kind of explaining how, right, this effect is countered by TMAO. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of read to figure out where that ends, right? So this is ensuring that proteins retain their original configurations. Okay, so I know that I have the period here. Now I know that I have a complete sentence, right? Because I have an independent clause, a subject, verb, and a complete thought, right? So my thought finishes here. So now I do have an independent clause there. Now I'm going to check the information after the period, doing the same thing, right? So TMAO is the subject, and is my verb, right? TMAO is found in high concentrations in the cells of the deepest dwelling fish. It sounds like the sentence ends right there. So the complete thought ends right there. So now I have my second independent clause as well. Good. Right, so when I have these two independent clauses that are separated by a period, I know it's going to be grammatically correct, right? Now, I know that, okay, it sounds grammatically correct, right? And it also makes logical sense too. Not only is it grammatically correct, but it sounds correct as well, right? Reading it as two separate sentences, you know? But anyways, this is how I know that A is going to be the correct answer. But so if we take a look at why the other ones are wrong now, it kind of becomes obvious, right? Because answer choice B here doesn't use any punctuation to separate the two independent clauses, right? So that creates what? It creates a run-on sentence. Answer choice C only uses a comma to separate the two independent clauses, which also creates a run-on sentence, right? Now look at what answer choice D does. Answer choice D uses the fanboys word and, but it doesn't use the comma, right? So remember, you have to have both the comma and the fanboys word to grammatically separate two independent clauses, right? So this actually, answer choice D, also creates a run-on sentence, right? Now, if you guys got this one wrong, you probably chose answer choice D because it just sounded the best maybe to you guys. I'm not sure, right? But A would be grammatically correct and also makes logical sense. So this is why A would be the right answer for this question, okay? So guys, let me know if you guys like this type of style of video, or if you guys want to learn anything else, just type that in the comment box below. I'll see you guys in the next one.